Welcome back to TV5 News at 9. It is time now for Aging in Style with American Retirement Advisors. Joining us this morning is President and owner Joe Vitale. Thank you so much, Joe, for calling in today.
Good morning, Colette. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. You're welcome. Okay, today, a very important topic. We are talking about predictable income during these very unpredictable times. So, Joe, tell us first, how can people plan so they can be sure that they have predictable income for retirement?
Yeah, that's huge. You know, and a lot of people that's the biggest concern that we're seeing a lot is they've got a good amount of money in their 401ks. They've got some in the bank. They're diversified for the most part. But the income question is the big one, because especially with the past market volatility and the COVID, and you know, they're like, how am I going to make sure I have enough money to live on? They can even have a good amount of money saved, but that's the biggest thing. So what we do is we like to have a retirement compass. We have a roadmap for them. So we look at where they're at, how much income they need for retirement, whether that's $50,000, $80,000, $30,000, whatever the case is. We map out a plan showing them to have where it's going to come from. If you can have predictable income coming in every month, come heck or high water, you can have that peace of mind, that sleep insurance of knowing that you can weather the storm. You know, when the market goes down, when we have a correction, if the stock market goes to pot, or if you lose your job, which was happening, you're going to be able to weather the storm because you know you've got the predictable income coming in that you can rely on.
So when you talk about weathering that storm, explain that to us, how to weather the storm.
Well, we've seen, right, with this COVID downturn that we had this year, you know, how long is the storm? Is a passing thunderstorm that lasts maybe, you know, a few months, or is it a tsunami that lasts years? You know, we saw in the early 2000s that it was a 3-year. You know, we've had 3 years of downturn. 08 was a huge downturn that took a little while to recover. This year we're pretty much recovered for the most part. We're still down a little bit, but there's still uncertainty, right? We don't know,
right.
And that's the biggest concern, is how are you going to weather the storm? So if this happens, what if you're going in? We have clients who are just going into retirement right now or next year or just went in. And if you don't have, it goes to the first question, if you don't have that predictable income, and you have to take money from your investments, but you're invested in risk, or your market, your account is down 20, 30, 40%, you can't weather the storm, because if you take money out of that pot right now, there's a good chance you're not going to make it back. Because how are you going to make it back when the market comes up if you've already taken that income out? So to have that predictable income, to make sure that your income, you can live on it, you can rely on it. Now you can wait to weather the storm. You can weather the storm by waiting for the market to come back up, because you've got the income to take care of your needs. You have your emergency fund set aside, which is really important to have that emergency fund. So when it's like a 1-2. You've got the emergency fund, you've got the predictable income, and now you're properly positioned. No matter what happens, you're going to win the race.
Oh, very understandable now. Thank you for explaining that. Now, some people have decided, Joe, to retire early. So how do they maneuver through this unexpected change?
Yeah. And you see that whether they have to retire early, or they're forced to, or they're done with it all. And that's what we're finding is now where our clients are coming to us and they're saying, here's what am I going to do now? You know, now that now because of all this, I have to retire early. What do I do? And it's the same underlying theme is, help me, show me how I'm going to have enough money to live on. And even, we've seen it, even if it's $500,000 they have, or $1 million, or 200, or whatever, we have to try to make that money last. And that's what we like to do with our clients is we show them, as a fiduciary, we show them proper balancing. We show them predictable income. We also show them a roadmap. And having that roadmap, and that's the biggest thing, is they come very, very concerned, saying, please help me, show me that my money's going to last, because they know it probably can last, or maybe it can't, or maybe it's a stretch. But if you can show them and they've got that peace of mind, that's what's really important, is to know they've got the peace of mind in retirement. Forced to retire now, make the money last, it makes sense.
And Joe, you know, you hear a lot about having a balanced retirement portfolio. What is that, and why is that so important?
Balance is huge, right? What if a lot of people we've seen, I've looked at their 401k statements and they're still growth. Well, hey, 401k growth is great if you have years to go. But as you get older, your risk tolerance changes, right? You don't have as many years to make up a correction as you do when you're younger. Plus, when you're working and you're making good income, you're funding that 401k, you're saving, you're not using that money. But now that you're transitioning into retirement, you need to pull that income. And if you're not balanced properly and you don't have that pile of money to pull that consistent income from, you may, and the market goes down and you're not balanced properly, you'll never make that up. And it's huge. And really, I've seen different scenarios where in 20 years it goes from having enough money for 20 years to running out of money in 15 years just because you're not properly balanced.
Right.
So it is really important. Everybody has their risk tolerance that we like to help with, to find out what that is and to make sure you're properly balanced, you've got some money for growth. And the same holds true. What if you're improperly balanced on the conservative side and you're only getting 1 or 2% rate of return? Oh my goodness, you're not going to make it for 30, 40 years. And people say, well, I'm not going to live that long. Who knows? We see people living, into the late 90s.
That's right.
You have to make sure that you're not too conservative, you're not too risk-oriented, but you've got that balance that no matter what happens, that you're going to be able to make it. And that's why we always love to give a second opinion. Make sure that everything's in good order for you.
That makes a lot of sense. So how does that play a role during a downturn market like we're in right now?
It's a big thing, because in a downturn right now, some people you could say, well, I'm pulling out of the market right now, right? Oh, I wasn't properly balanced. Now we got a downturn. I can't stand this risk anymore. I'm pulling out. What's the worst thing you could do? Because now you're not going to make that up, right? Stay the course. That's what we talk about. Weather the storm. Be properly balanced and positioned that you can weather the storm. Make that up. Moving forward, you may say, okay, now that we've done that, I can't have this risk anymore. Help me get properly balanced because I can't sleep at night. I'm too close to retirement. Let's make sure now that we put you in a position that if we have another downturn, it doesn't really bother you. I mean, nobody likes to see their account balances go down, but if you've got that predictable income coming in every month, you can wait for that to come up. You're properly positioned for the long term, and you can see the money grow over time, and you can have the retirement that you really want to have, that you've dreamed about, as opposed to, and this is no disrespect, we don't all want to go into retirement so we can be a greeter at a store. Now, some of us want to, right? Some people, that's fine, because they're people. They love to get out and talk to people, and that you should have the ability to choose to do that, not to be forced to do that. So that's all about that. You want to make sure you've got that income, enjoy your kids, your grandkids, the extracurricular activities that you want to do, and that's what we help people do, is make sure that by being properly positioned and balanced, you can do that. And everybody's a little bit different, so it's important to have to look at their situation.
So stay the course, weather the storm, and call Joe for his great information that we need from you. Thank you so much, Joe. We appreciate you calling in.
Oh, thanks, Glad. Take care.
You too. If you'd like any more information, head on over to the hot link section of WNEM.com.